I don't ever want to role play a baby.
No.
But
where is this going?
But sleeping in a crib physically would be exhausting. I think I just want like a tight bed with a wall.
Is this being recorded?
Yes.
Okay.
It's on the internet.
Maybe I just want to like sleep in like a deprivation chamber or something. I think I just like being closed
I've always wanted to try a sensory deprivation tank. Like,
see, like the idea of a sensory deprivation tank sounds so good until like my imagination starts going.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like, get me out. Like, there's no way.
That's the thing that's like super dumb to me is like,
well,
I always had a hard time sleeping because like my mind would go nuts and like then anxiety and like all the bad thoughts in my head. But the thought of like, oh man, it'd be cool to do that, but also floating in pitch black, like that would be fun, right?
I hate to interrupt this fantasy booking, but given my grippy sock vacation back in 2016, I had something close to a sensory deprivation chamber. I don't recommend it.
Oh no.
Huh.
I don't recommend it.
Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a music podcast where a group of friends gather together to share music with each other, an album at a time. It's like a little book club for music. Fun time had by all. Fun situation times, good times. I'm Petey Rave. And here with me is my crew, my squad, my team. We've got David.
Hi, I'm David. I like progressive rock and other stuff.
We've got Drew.
Anytime I hear somebody mention the situation, all I can think of is that one dude from the Jersey Shore. And then it makes me a little sad to be Italian. And
I think of the Situation Room on CNN, and it makes me feel like too much of an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yes. Last but not least, we have the guest for these next set of episodes. Not a pastry, like we did the last few episodes. Here being represented by the image of the very nice, very evil Danhausen. We've got Alevhausen. Alev, hello.
Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. Not a pastry, but still a snack. Either way.
Yes, exactly. We're here to talk about music. We're here to hang out, goof around, but we're here to talk about an album. We're here to talk about an album that I brought for the group. An album by a Korean indie band, a Korean indie math rock, post rock band that I was interested in bringing an album once they actually released a full length album, and they finally did. We're going to be talking about the album Apricot, but with a number 4 instead of an A. Interesting. And also the O has a slash through it. Interesting, stylish thing. Let's talk about expectations. David, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
In previous episodes of the podcast, when Petey brings on something in this vein of Korean indie rock or Korean math rock, it usually falls into the category of being kind of an atmospheric album, something that's more reminiscent to kind of the indie rock scene of the early to mid 2000s, and something usually kind of in a more melodic territory. Maybe not necessarily rock in all caps, but there are guitars, they're being played, they're distorted, and oftentimes it's usually instrumental with limited vocals here and there, and they're being played to a maybe not necessarily silly, ridiculous time signature like the stuff I really enjoy, but things can get a little kind of in a 5/4 maybe, and it can be fun. if it's something that really grabs you. But it does have to grab you. Otherwise, you're kind of left a little bit floaty in a floaty space. And I think this album has all of those check marks. And we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Drew, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
Not a huge amount. By the name being a little weird and having all the numbers and stuff, and also the album cover, I expected some weird. Didn't know what side of the weird coin we were going to go on. But was expecting a little weird. But like I've said before, when Petey brings on something from a country and in the language I am only somewhat familiar with by sound and by look, then it is something that is probably going to musically be very well produced and very well thought out and put together. Because I don't think anything he's brought from overseas has been anything but. So I was excited to get into at least that, knowing that it was going to sound good in my headphones at the very least.
Yeah, and last but not least, Alev, what expectations did you have coming into this album?
So based on the album cover alone, I was like, this is going to be something completely out of like what I'm normally used to, but I can appreciate that. It looks interesting. I was like, this is going to definitely be like pretty good, you know? And I gave it a listen to some songs on the tracks, and I thought they were really good. I was really into it. Like, it has a lot of like, it seems to fit within like the indie / like pop vibe. And I found myself like kind of like jamming to it. I thought it was pretty good. There was not much, but I was intrigued by it.
Yeah, let's talk about it musically. Yeah, this is. We talked about like I mentioned like the math rocky, post rocky vibe. That's mostly the names that I see out. I've talked about them in like reviews and things like that. Mainly, it's really tight musicianship. People that are know how to meedle and how to do the things with their instruments. Really tight musicianship. It kind of like goes from like David had said, like atmospheric ideas and more of a melody thing, goes to like being very dreamy to kind of like being very soaring, and then it picks some good moments to kind of turn the momentum up, turn the into a little bit higher octane moments, and does it well. Like there's really cool like guitar work that kind of like has fun playing with like the weirdness and the weird like time signatures and the weird like kind of like playing around up and down on it. It has really cool solid bass work, and that kind of underlines everything, and the drums are really solid. But like the guitar work and the vocals are kind of like what is like one of the key things there. And the vocals are like mostly in like the trying to be atmospheric and dreaming, but Yeonju does find her moments to kind of like belt some out there a little bit, and it works well. I think like that's like the big thing. It's very like like hit my microphone. Very like atmospheric, dreamy, but with finding like those explosive moments, which is really cool. Yeah, let's go to you guys. David, how would you describe this album musically?
I would describe this album musically as something you probably would have heard on college radio circa 2001. Because it definitely has that college radio emo-ish territory of being not quite hard rock, but not quite milquetoast soft either. But the drummer on this album is definitely talented. There's definitely some really good drum work all over this album. I think a lot of this album kind of works around the drum work, which is why it probably falls into the category of math rock, because the drummer's definitely doing things. I think that he has, whomsoever the drummer is, definitely has a jazz background or some jazz influence in a lot of their work. And I felt that to be really the most standout part of this album. As an entire album piece, I thought it was atmospheric to a fault. If you can kind of get something out of that, great. I think if you can't, it might be a little hard to pay attention to, because it really is just its own kind of one-dimensional vibe. But if you like that, it can definitely be a place where you can really be comfortable. It is 53 minutes, and it's an almost an hour-long album. It's got 11 tracks, and most of it stays in the same kind of headspace. The vocals are good. She has a voice that fits really well. It's reminiscent of things of an alternative vibe from the early 2000s. And I think that if you can enjoy alternative rock from that era, you'll probably get something out of this a lot.
Mm-hmm. Drew, how would you describe this album musically?
So, it's weird that opening. Well, it's not weird that David mentioned prog rock. But if prog rock to me in my head is like jazz, like dudes playing in a milieu of like rock and roll and heavy metal, math rock always felt like the Midwest emo kids playing in a milieu of jazz to me. Like it's in similar neighborhoods, just slightly veered to a different direction. If I partook in say Ohio's medicinal vegetation that we have here, I would feel like this would be exactly what I would want. That said, this is so my shit, it's ridiculous. This is the sort of thing where like I can put this on at work while I'm walking like through campus, or I can put this on like driving down the road, and it can fade into the background, or I can put it here, and the spacing of the instruments, the way it's produced, the musicianship in there, like I can sit and hear the whole thing, or I can sit and like go like, okay, I'm gonna just listen to the bass listen through this song, and you can pick it out perfectly, and there's something to dive into there, and I really dig that. That said, the vocals as well were a surprise to me. Looking at the album art a little bit, I was expecting more weird instrumental, and I got some vocals, which is kind of a surprise. This dog is being a real right dickhole. Just tried to drop a tennis ball in my lap. We're not playing, bud. That said, there was a lot to dive into here. Like Deej said, it's something that like you've kind of got to be in the right headspace for, and you've kind of got to have the right likes already for. But I think there's Golden Hills.
Also, shout out to the drummer is Kim Min So. Shout out to him. Great work. Yeah. Alev, how would you describe this album musically?
I found it to be like musically, it's very different from what I think most people would be used to. Like when I was listening to it, I could definitely like, although I liked it a lot, I could definitely see people thinking that maybe it's not their cup of tea, because it's very experimental. It's very like out of the box. But still, I found it, like, regardless of that, like, I still found it to be, like, if people gave it a chance, it still could be a very pleasant, like, listen, you know? I thought the instrumentals were pretty clean. I don't know, like, there's not much to say. I just thought it was musically just very different from what I'm used to, and I feel like a lot of people could probably agree with that. But I think, you know, still, like, people would like it if they gave it a chance.
Yeah, and I think it really deviates in really fun ways, and it has some really solid sound. Now we're going to talk about the tracks, the key tracks. Talking about some
Petey,
of the.
How would you describe this album musically?
I think
I know what you think.
Wait, where I got myself lost. I think I already said. But yeah, I think like I said, like atmospheric, dreamy, soaring, and with some really great like explosive moments and great drum work, like you said, and great guitar work. Talk about some of the key tracks. We go to I'll reserve the opening track for others. Those are solid. We go to Kyrie. Not I don't believe has anything to do with a certain basketball player that Drew used to be a fan of, but you never know. I'm pretty sure I translated the lyrics. I didn't think there was anything about basketball in there.
Still debating selling half of that sneaker collection I have.
But yeah, the song has a really, really solid guitar work and has some really great moments, especially kind of like where you get to like the bridges and has some really kind of like cool like soaring moments and has a cool video as well. You go into a song like Melon, and that one turns up the energy really well in a great way. Has some like big explosive moments. That one is like where you like some of the one of the bigger moments for Yeonju's vocals to shine in this album and kind of like soaring out there. But some really great like momentous like parts for like the drum work, but especially like the just kind of like getting in there with like fun like fills and fun like guitar and a nice little big rock ending at the end, just kind of like and then which is really cool. And then like it goes to a song like Frittata that just kind of like switches the pace all of a sudden and like this like little like beatnik little like chill moment at the beginning, and then switches into like something else, and then switches into like some dance rock moments with the guitar, and it is a fun like contrast to Melon, and I love how Rain kind of like accelerates throughout the song, kind of ramps up momentum throughout the song to kind of like a big explosion. I just thought that was really cool. David, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Track 2, the aforementioned basketball player who thinks he's smarter than everybody else, even though he's a moron. The guitar melodies were really cool that weaved throughout this entire song. And the drummer, as I mentioned at the top, is working extra hard on this album, and it all really works. It's almost a freeform song. It teeters right on the edge of being freeform, but it still manages to hold itself together, and it works. Warm Salad, the breakdown in the latter half of this song really brought some energy to it, which I kind of felt like this album was missing, and I'm glad it brought that at least on that track, Warm Salad.
Mm-hmm. Drew, what will be some of the key tracks for you? Oh, you're muted.
Right, because I was going to make sure the diabetic dog wasn't being stupid. Yay, dog sitting.
Diabetic Dog is a great band name.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they would tour with Toad the Wet Sprocket.
That's kind of in the space of this album.
Yeah, a
little bit.
Yeah. Or Frog the Moistened Cog. As you were saying, Drew.
Sorry. Now I'm off on a tangent trying to think of something. But Jesus Christ, I don't know if Harper yelling at Alexa to play songs while she's in the shower is coming through the mic, but it's really funny.
It definitely isn't.
Okay. So Free Will, because I'm doing the me thing. The clear separation of all the instruments, the way the track builds, drops, build. Shut the fuck up! God damn it, this house.
You sound like me at my house with my dogs.
Yeah. Well, the weird thing is, Amber gave him trazodone, and it is not working. The way the track like builds up and drops, and it never gets into that like wall of noise territory. And it sort of sets you up for all of it. The changing time signatures, the separation of instruments, all of it. Warm Salad, the drums in here, like the snare tone just hit me really, really, really well. It was probably the first thing I noticed is that snare pop. And Loss, I wanted to bring a point to, because while there are better bass licks and like bass runs elsewhere in the album, I think this was my favorite for just pure tone of the bass guitar. There was something on this track that like just highlighted the sound itself that was coming out of that bass guitar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Alev, what would be the key tracks for you?
I definitely say it has to be like Free Will. And I know it's a popular one, but Warm Salad was also really good. For Free Will, I found it like when I started listening to this album, I really liked how the album starts off just like really energetic. It gives you basically like an idea of what you're going to get yourself into when you're listening to it. It's just very high energy. And I always found myself like kind of gravitating towards like songs like that. So immediately off the bat, I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And Warm Salad, of course, those drums are amazing. I always like the more like progressive type like drumming when it comes to like most songs I listen to. So I don't know. I just found it like really enjoyable to listen to. Like, I know I'm not like doing the best at describing, but it's just a vibe. It's probably the best way I can describe it.
That's. I think that's a perfect. We've said we've used a vibe as to describe songs multiple times.
Several times.
Yeah,
it is sometimes
just a vibe.
Yeah, sometimes it's just the right way to the right word for describing some songs and some albums. Yeah, let's bring it back around the horn, talk about some conclusive thoughts. David, what would be your conclusive thoughts on this album?
It flew by, but not necessarily in a good way. I felt like this album was a little bit hard for me to grab onto. I could hear the beginnings of some interesting things, but it was like they never went far enough. It felt like this is a band that should be doing more. Like they should be taking these little offshoots and bits of what they're doing and taking them a little bit farther, but then they chose not to for a reason. This might sound weird, but it felt like there were a lot of 4 or 5 minute songs on this that probably could have been 6 or 7 minute songs. And in a way that was kind of a letdown. I liked the singer's voice, and the melodies that are there are solid, but maybe not the most memorable. And my take on this album is that this could have been more. I've gotten more out of shorter albums with stronger songs, as well as albums that were well over an hour. And I want to ask the question is, do they want to rock or do they want to indie? And I'm not really sure which one.
Drew, what will be your conclusion at the end of this album?
Well, for me, I really ended up liking this record. Math rock is something that, like, every time I've listened to something in the genre, it hits all the right notes for me. It's musically intricate enough that, like, I can sit down and really pick it apart, but also that, like, the weird emo-y part of my brain that likes that feeling and that vibe comes through. And I always tended towards the more musically intricate of that genre in a way anyways. You're at the drive-ins and Thursdays and Chiodos and all that sort of BS, and your modern baseballs or what have you once the Midwest emo thing came in, right?
World Champions? World Champions? Is that one of them? A friend of mine also from Ohio liked them.
Different band. Yeah, my brain went to album. World Champions, yes, would be in the Midwest emo sort of milieu. There's also the Front Bottoms is very popular. Because I don't like the Front Bottoms because it kind of has that almost Quaalude Gorilla Biscuits vocal, but without the hardcore punkness to it, so that doesn't vibe with me a lot. Although Twin Size Mattress is a fucking jam. I'm getting off track and getting into Midwest emo and less about math rock because I'm me.
Yeah.
But this album is something that I wished I could understand the lyrics to. Because I bet I would have a lot more to say about that part of that vibe. But as it stands, it's something that, like, I would easily put this back on again. I would easily listen to this again. But it is not an easy recommendation for everybody. Like, Squiggles might find something in this. But, like, I don't know if everybody would be able to. I would not put this on at a party.
No, this is like perfect, like, road trip music.
Yeah.
I feel like for some people.
Or cafe music. I would say that something like that.
Or cafe music too.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, I listened to this while drinking a
definitely a cafe
the other morning.
Cafe. Yeah, Alev, last but not least, what are your conclusive thoughts on this album?
Well, I mean, this is more than just like criticisms, right? Because we're just discussing like just our general thoughts on it. I mean, I know I mentioned already that the whole album was a vibe. But I don't know, like, I really just appreciated, like, just the experimental, like, aspect of it, between, like, the really, like, smooth, like, guitars and, just overall, like, I just found it to be, like, really enjoyable to listen to, like, really pleasant. Again, like, I know that I mentioned that, like, because it's just so different, and not many people would probably, like it at first, but it's definitely something that you couldn't be able to put this on, like, at any time, right? Like, you would have to, like, find, like, specific moments in which it would fit that time. But
everybody's getting high.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Like, this is probably really good music to listen to when you're high.
Except not in South Korea, where it's very illegal.
Oh yeah, absolutely do not.
Oh yeah, you get
not do that.
You will be done.
But over
it's
here,
it's not like the half illegal is here.
Yeah. Right.
Or the totally legal it is here.
It really is good for it.
Yes.
Oh yeah, you and your fucking Michigan recreational.
100%.
My girlfriend wants to take a trip up to you guys.
Hey.
But yeah, overall, I just found this album, like, just very pleasant. Like, again, this is very different from what I'm used to normally listening to. Like, I listen to a lot of, like, punk and hardcore, so this is, like, very out of, like, my field of experience. But I liked it. I liked it a lot. I think it's something to definitely listen to, like, when you're trying to come down from, like, something very, like, heavy energy, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a solid, fun, easy listen album. I think the I can definitely understand the where David was talking about where it kind of like flew by in a way, because like if anything that I had trouble with this album was being able to sit down and analyze it. If anything, that was the hard part.
Yes.
Like I had it was a great time to just I blasted it in the car. I was always just like, and then I was doing other things, and it was always like the good part that was in my head. But to like sit down, oh wait, I gotta like make notes about this. I gotta think about why I like this album. It was always like I get distracted, but I enjoyed that. Like I enjoyed like my last couple of listens to here, I was back there in my bed with these same headphones, just like I had the notes, and then I just like stopped looking at my notes and just sat back and like just vibed. And like the next thing I know, oh wait, I'm like getting closer to go time, and I need to actually make notes and things like that. But like it is just so easy to like get lost and vibe with it. That for some it could like lullaby with you and doesn't hook you. I didn't mind that. That hooked me in that way. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed like the just kind of getting lost in the musical moments. Hooking into like the little aspects of that it was making. Like we said, this is a very good like album for certain moments. Like if you're sitting in a very aesthetic cafe in the middle of Seoul, drinking an iced Americano, if you're kind of that kind of person, just like everybody else, discussing with your friends because apparently this is what Korea is now obsessed with, discussing your MBTIs all of a sudden, because I still don't understand how Korea got obsessed with Myers-Briggs for some reason. Everybody in K-pop,
I can believe that. I can believe it. It tracks. It's right up there. It's right up there with blood types.
Yeah, they moved on from blood types. All the young people are all, they're all, and they say it's wild. They're all INFP, INTJ, like all. It's weird.
The youths.
Yeah, when I was waking up at 3 a.m. to catch the Bonge was playing the StarCrafts, like it was all blood types.
Yeah.
Then
like, you know what? I bet you if you watched it now, you watch it or watched Overwatch, it'd be all about the Myers-Briggs.
I was gonna say it's all Overwatch and League now, man.
Exactly.
Like,
if you watch Overwatch and League now, I bet you whenever they're talking, casually talking, they're all gonna be like, you're gonna hear a lot of INFP, INTJ, ENFP, like all that. Myers-Briggs.
That's precious.
Myers-Briggs aside, and that pseudoscience. This is a really solid album. It's a really fun album to listen to while drinking an espresso or smoking a J or both. Hey, live your life.
Your uppers and your downers.
Exactly.
It's fun.
Or just a nice tea.
Yes,
a Lipton brisk iced tea.
Yes.
No, but hold on. You said nice tea, and then the next word out of your mouth was Lipton, and I'm confused.
I said Lipton brisk, the brisk that they have.
Exactly. You can do a little green tea, a matcha, do something like that, some chill.
Some Earl Grey, even.
Earl Grey, hot.
Thanks, Picard.
Yeah, it is just a very solid album, very, very cool album to just kind of like vibe with, and it's definitely worth a listen. Yeah, those are our thoughts on Cotoba's Apricot. Now we get to the main event of the evening, the moment we've all been waiting for, our Haiku Reviews. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Haiku numero uno. David, what is your haiku?
Okay, background jams. Light math rock tries to go hard. I don't hold with it.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Brett.
Yes.
I like that one.
Yes. Drew, what is your haiku?
Calming, thoughtful sound from some awesome musicians. We'll keep listening.
Mm-hmm. Alev, what is your haiku?
Okay, and thank you at Miss Bamantha for this wonderful haiku called a haiku for my salad.
Yes.
I do not like you. You will never be grilled cheese. You make my mouth sad.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yes, and my haiku. Good talent showcase. Greater than some of its parts. Hopeful for future.
That's nice.
Yeah. And those are thoughts on Cotoba's Apricot. I'm looking forward to more from Cotoba because this is a nice collection of what they've been working on so far, and I'm looking for what they do in the future. You can, of course, find this album on our Spotify playlists, both of them. Play Record Breakers the home game, do your due diligence and your due diligence. We got 2 playlists, like I said, one of them with the podcast episodes slotted in appropriately and one without. So you can just listen to the albums. You can even put it on shuffle and go on a real adventure. This is a wild.
You might hear Patrick.
Exactly.
That would be nuts, honestly. There's just so much energy to this album.
Yes. Oh God. Wait till you see the size of our master playlist. That's a wild adventure. Yeah, check that out.
It's fucking weird, man.
Yes. Yeah, check that all out over there. All in the show notes with all the information. I'll also throw in the Bandcamp for Cotoba. I want to support them there. Yeah, on that Spotify playlist will be next week's record, presumably, and it'll be provided by David. David, what have you got for us next week?
Petey, need your help on this one.
Mm-hmm.
White or yellow?
I hydrate, so I would be clear, but so I'll go with white.
Okay. This is one of those metal bands that I like to evangelize. They're one of those bands that I like to introduce people to because I really believe in them as far as talent level, songwriting, musical ability, great singer. In my opinion, as far as a metal band goes, they are the complete package. And they released an album earlier this year called The Testament. And the name of this band is Seventh Wonder, and their album, The Testament.
Mm-hmm. Check that out. That'll be next week, but this is this week, of course. And you can, of course, check us out all over the internet. Let me play the song. Let me play you our outro song. You can, of course, check us out all over the internet. David is at Call Me DJM. Drew is at XDruciferX. Alev is at Mercury Hymn. I'm at Petey Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers, just like 4pricot. There's like apricot. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. Rebelli.net for this and other shows. Rebelli TV on YouTube and on Twitch. You can catch us live for things like this podcast or our D&D show Through the Tomes, or like my Witcher streams with Daisy, or our random other streams. I'm trying to get into a good schedule, and I'll get back to Mass Effect. Look forward to getting back to Mass Effect 3. We'll have forgotten what I was doing at the time, and that'll be fun. But yeah, go check that out. All those things there. Like, share, subscribe, check us out where you find podcasts. Do all the things. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Bye-bye.
Did somebody say toodaloo?
You just did.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Annyeong.
Bye, everyone.
Fighting.
Huh. It's made with Wisconsin honey.
Which is actually just beer.
Yep. It's me. Getting crunk.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.